Good morning. Thank you for joining us for the 7:55 live. Today's Jesus Said is feed my sheep. For about 5 minutes, you're going to hear an easy to remember soundbite version of what Jesus said. Again, today's Jesus Said is feed my sheep. Jesus revealed himself as the good shepherd. If you love him, there's a shepherding job for you to do. So why do we do this? The point is to help you experience life to the fullest the Jesus way. Today's Jesus Said comes from John 21, verse 15 through 16. We'll actually read through 19, and it'll be a few verses at a time. So, starting in verse 15, and this is from the New Living Translation, he says, "After breakfast, Jesus asked Simon Peter, 'Simon, son of John, do you love me more than these?' 'Yes, Lord,' Peter replied. 'You know I love you.' 'Then feed my lambs,' Jesus told him." So if we read a little bit between the lines, in English the word love, it can mean several different things. In the original Greek of the New Testament, several different words for love were translated into the one English word of love. In this discussion with Peter, Jesus is asking Peter one word, and then Peter's responding with another. So in verse 15, he says, "Do you love me, agape me, more than these?" This is the highest word for love, the God type of love. He's asking him, do you have that God type of love for me? Are you fully committed to me? And Peter responds, "You know I phileo you. You know I love you like a friend." That fondness kind of love. And then again, Jesus says, "If you love me, then feed my sheep." So he's saying, if you have that highest commitment of love for me, then feed my sheep. But Peter doesn't respond that way. He responds, "I'm your friend." So he asks again in verse 16. Jesus repeated the question, "Simon, son of John, do you love me?" "Yes, Lord," Peter said. "You know I love you." "Then take care of my sheep," Jesus said. Once again, in verse 16, in the contrast of the words love, Jesus says, "Do you agape me? Do you love me with that fully committed God type of love?" And Peter says, "You know I phileo you," that fondness, friendship kind of love. Then he says, "Then take care of my sheep." Again, he's saying, shepherd, take care of them. Love my sheep if you love me the way, that God type of love. So then again, in verse 17, he asked the question a third time. A third time he asked him, "Simon, son of John, do you love me?" Peter was a little hurt. And I can imagine, they've had this conversation. He's asking the same question 3 times. This is the third time he's asking, "Do you love me?" So Peter, being a little hurt, he says, "Lord, you know everything. You know that I love you." Then Jesus said, "Then feed my sheep." So Jesus actually changes the word here for love. He says, "Do you phileo me? Do you even love me like a friend? Do you even have that kind of fondness for me?" And Peter says, "You know that I phileo you. You know that I love you like that." And he says, "Then take care of my sheep." So then after this, Jesus actually talks about the sacrifice that was ahead and asks Peter to do the same thing. He says, again, talking to Peter, "I tell you the truth. When you were young, you were able to do as you liked. You dressed yourself and went wherever you wanted to go. But when you are old, you will stretch out your hands and others will dress you and take you where you do not want to go." And then in verse 19, he says, Jesus said this to let him know by what kind of death he would glorify God. Then he said to him what he said to him at the very beginning, "Follow me." So Jesus chose this loudmouth, hardworking fisherman, just regular guy, to be the one who would preach on the day of Pentecost, and 3,000 people would end up following Jesus that day. In the letters that Peter wrote, we see that this conversation that he had with Jesus, like this conversation about the different kinds of love, and if he actually loved him with that God kind of love, it actually changes Peter. He did end up showing that agape kind of love. So we see in 1 Peter chapter 2, verse 17, this is Peter writing. He says, "Honor all people. Love the family of believers for God. Fear God and honor the king." And he used agape love. Peter got it. He got it. It took him a little bit with Jesus, but he got it. So the question we ask ourselves, are you fond of Jesus? Is Jesus just a friend to you? Is he just somebody that you're cool with? Or do you love him enough, that agape kind of love, that highest commitment kind of love, to make it not about yourself and be willing to shepherd others, to take care of others, to feed his sheep? So how can you put this into action? Again, we read from John chapter 21, verse 15 through 16. How can you put these verses into action in your life today? How can you show God that you love him with that agape kind of love? Go out there and feed his sheep. So thank you so much for listening. If you enjoy this, you can like, comment, share. If you want to follow along with us in the Bible plan, it is bible.today.church. So I just want you to know, again, I hope you have an amazing day. Put this into practice in your life. After we end everything, we always say, love Jesus today. And we all say, love first. Thank you.